Hello, I'm old Mr. Kent. I'm 82 years old on my morning E-Trike ride. And that's one of my friends, the black dog. I used to have a black dog. Oh, I could tell you about that dog. But anyway, well, that could be this story today. But first of all, I need to tell you that I washed my trike. It's the first time I've washed it in weeks because it's so dusty here, and that's probably why I cough a lot. Excuse me for that. And then, so I got my trike all washed, and it looks really nice now. I don't know if it will make a difference in the video, but it was time to do that. And if I look tired this morning, I ordered a new printer, just a black and white laser printer, and it came yesterday. My old printer was just fine. Only thing is it started when Windows did their last update. It wouldn't print to the computer or copy to the or scan to the computer like it used to. So I ended up ordering a new printer that was wireless. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, and so I spent half of yesterday. Remember, I used to do tech support for Microsoft? Anyway, things changed so rapidly. But so I spent half of yesterday just getting the printer set up and trying to make it do what I needed it to do. Later in this video, you'll see a printout, and in order to put it on my video, it has to be converted from a piece of paper to a digital image. And so that's what I needed the scanner printer for. And so anyway, it's internet oriented, and so everything you do has to be internet oriented. And there were no instructions on how to set it up until I saw where it said go to it's a Brothers 2820 printer scanner, black and white. Anyway, so I saw this note that said go to setup.brothers.com. No problem. Told me just what to do. And so no wonder I couldn't find any paperwork on it. And so I got it set up basically, but then I couldn't get the printer and the computer to match up with each other or connect to each other. So that took a while to figure out why that wasn't working. The one thing I did learn through this whole mess is that you actually have to be smarter than the printer, and I'm not. So anyway, I spent all afternoon and evening yesterday, and then I think a couple hours this morning trying to get the thing to work like I wanted it to. So I think I got it figured out. I have a daughter in Spokane, Washington, who has one, and so I called her a couple times for tech support, and she was helpful. Anyway, so that's why if I look tired, that would be the reason. All right, so I had a plan to tell you about my old motorcycle, but I think I'll save that one. Excuse me. I'll save that one for another time. I'd much rather tell you about my first dog. And I think I've told it before on here, but I love telling the story, so I'll tell you the story. When I was in college, my first couple of years, I was busy. But then in I guess it'd be my senior year, I had a lot of classes that were like seminars and stuff. Didn't have a whole lot of hard studies. So one of the things I did was I found for $75, I bought an old used rental rowboat that you could put a motor on. You know, I think it was 13 feet, and it needed a lot of work. So I brought it home, made me some sawhorses to set it on, and replaced all the bad pieces of wood and everything. And this is about my boat, not my dog. Anyway, replaced it. You know, like where the gunnel comes along to the back of the boat. You know, there was a piece of wood that was carved out that kept it from wobbling and kept it square, and that was all split. So I had to make two of those, basically just hand carving. Now back then, I had absolutely no power tools, because back then, that was in 1965. I was just a young kid, and they didn't have a whole lot of power tools like they do now. So anyway, most of it was hand done, and in fact, all of it was. And so I got it all done, and painted it, and took it out. Had a friend of mine, actually he was a good friend. He went to the same church as I did, and he was a high school kid, but he thought I was a lot of fun to hang out with. So we decided we'd go. This was up in Bellingham on Lake Whatcom, which doesn't even look like a good place to go anymore with all the houses built around it. But I'm sorry if I have a negative attitude. I am tired. Anyway, so took it out. There was a little island in Lake Whatcom, and so we took it out to camp on that island. And it was night. It was after dark when we actually got started, and that was kind of a fun trip, because I might have to tell you about my dog in another story. Anyway, so we got in. We started. We had our pack for camping and everything, and I didn't have a motor, so we just used the oars and started heading. We had to head the long length of Lake Whatcom up by Bellingham, Washington there, just in case I forgot to say that. Anyway, and it was interesting because the seagulls, you couldn't see them because it was too dark, but the seagulls would come swooping over us, and you couldn't see them, but you could hear their wings squeaking. Never knew that before, but their wings were squeaking. And so, anyway, so we got to our campsite, or we got to the island, and we set up camp and everything. And but I was going to tell you, on the way, we noticed, I had a flashlight. We noticed that the boat was leaking, and I figured out that it was up near the bow, and it was coming in right where the gunnel or the side met the bottom. And so I thought, okay, what do we got, And we had a jar of old-fashioned peanut butter. So it's got an oil base. So I put some on my hand, dug it out of the jar, reached down in the water underneath the front of the boat, and found the place where it was coming in, and I plugged that all up with peanut butter. Excuse me. And so it stopped leaking. Peanut butter. Now, I know later on I realized, after I got used to having a boat, that when you first put it in the water, after it's been out of the water for a long time, it's going to leak in a lot of places. And then that gets swollen up and it doesn't leak anymore. So anyway, so we camped out with that boat. And then next morning we cooked our breakfast and all that kind of stuff. And headed back home. So that, and I put a deck on it. I've got a picture of my dog on the deck. And that's the only picture I've got of it. And we headed back home. I had that boat for a long time. I went out on Lake Whatcom lots of times just to go along. I'd cruise along the beach and looking at things on the bottom and stuff. And that's where the story of my dog is supposed to come along. But you know what I think I'll do? I think I'll save that story for another time, because I've got a poem that I want to show you. Remember now, I was writing poetry in the late 80s and early 90s. I had a job where I had time to do that. After 1993, I think it was, I had different jobs, and so I haven't written any poetry much since then. So this poem, if you're an old guy like me, you'll be able to identify with it. The young folks may not. Back in the old days, if you didn't have an encyclopedia and you wanted to find an answer to something, you could call the local library, ask for the reference department, and there would be a person in there, usually a lady, who would take your question and then find an answer. And if she didn't find it right away, she'd ask you for your phone number, and she'd call you back and give that answer. So that's what we used to do. We used to call the library, and did that several times to find out some little thing. So you'll hear me reference that in this upcoming poem. And so that's what it's talking about. So I'm going to pull over right here, and this is where I'll wait until my friend Mr. Kent finishes reading his poem, and then we'll go on from here. So stay tuned.
How did I live before Google? How did I know what to do? When somebody asked me a question, I just said, I don't have a clue. It cost my folks lots of money for those cyclopedia books, but I never liked trying to read them for all the time that it took. Now my wife, on her own little iPad, is a genius with knowledge to spare. When she needs to look up an answer, she won't even get out of the chair. I remember our trip to Montana. We didn't want to get lost. Google printed a map how to get there and told us how much it would cost. As long as I carried my iPhone, I could Google the places to stay. Our trip to Montana is over, where we threw all our road maps away. I decided to take up the fiddle. I wanted to learn it so bad, but the lessons were pretty expensive. They cost a lot more than I had. One day I flipped open my laptop and Googled the word violin. Now I'm my own virtuoso as I balance it under my chin. At times I'm a little bit leery of 4G and 5G and Wi-Fi. How will my brain ever function if I can't find a signal nearby? I'll need to get up from my sofa and look for the answer alone, or do like we did in the old days, get the library folks on the phone.
Okay, well, there you go. One of my crazy poems. I got a lot of them, but some of them are way too long to put in my videos. So I was thinking maybe that one was too long. Well, we'll see. Anyway, so I guess that's about it for this time. So I'll just say thank you for watching my video, and God bless.